What's going on, everyone? Thanks for joining me here again today. This week, since it is absolutely frigid outside right now, about 38 degrees, figured I would film and show you guys my chain adjusting process. It's not a how-to or a step-by-step tutorial. However, we want to make sure to include a few tips that I've learned in getting it just set perfectly for your next ride. Being that it's wintertime, I think that now is the perfect time to kind of go over a lot of the major maintenance things that people neglect during the summer, myself included, and one of the first ones is adjusting the chain. If you have axle sliders that go over the axle itself, you'll need a 10mm socket, 12mm wrenches for the rear adjusting bolts, a 27mm socket for the axle nut itself, a nice breaker bar to break it loose, and definitely a torque wrench when tightening everything back up after adjustment. So, without further ado, let's get to it. Something I forgot to mention, your favorite drink of choice definitely makes a little bit of maintenance much more worthwhile. And before we start, I just want to apologize in advance if I sound a little dumb or like I don't know what I'm talking about. When I get behind the camera, I get super anxious and feel like I sound dumb or stupid. And I can promise you that I know what I'm doing, I know what I'm talking about. And that's not to sound like egotistical, but it may come off as if I'm like a little clueless, and that's not the case. So, apologies in advance. So today's video, I'm going to be adjusting the chain slack. Over the summer, I kind of neglected that, and although it's not like too far out of spec currently, I do know that it is a little bit too far out, so we're going to be adjusting the axle back. There are actually notches on the swing arm itself that kind of indicate how far back it is. Today we're going to be going 2 notches back. I know that it's been a little bit too long since I've adjusted it last, so we're going to be doing that. While I have you here, be sure to check out Brogue Motorcycles for all of their custom parts that they make for the XSR700. They've got heel rests, guards, however you want to put that. They also have the Sprocket guard in the front. Plenty of items on this bike that came from Brogue. Mike, big shout out to you, man. Great quality parts. Always love working with them. So if you haven't, check them out. I'll leave a link down in the description and probably a card in the top here. So without further ado, let's get started. First, take off your axle sliders if you have them. Next, you're going to be loosening your axle nut. Be careful not to pull it off of your stand. It's going to take some force to get loose, but just use a little caution to make sure you're not pulling the bike off of the center stand itself. The bigger the bar, the better. So if you need to use a jack handle on a ratchet or something like that, use that. And we're going just loose enough to where we can pull the axle and wheel back with the adjusting rods. Now that we've loosened the axle nut, we're going to be loosening both the adjusting nuts on the rear of the swing arm. And we are essentially going to be pulling the axle back with the adjusting nuts on the back of the swing arm, equally on both sides, paying attention to the marks on the swing arm to ensure that we're sliding it back evenly. Once your adjusting nuts have been tightened up to get rid of the excess chain slack, an old trick that I learned to keep things even is to take a rag and Put it between the sprocket and the chain itself. Rotate the chain back. That will ensure that it is nice and tight and even on both sides. At that point, you're going to be tightening your axle nut. In this case, it's a 76 foot-pounds. As you tighten it, make sure to keep tension on the rear wheel, ensuring that both alignment marks on the swing arm are even. And with your torque wrench, once you start to feel tension on the wrench, make a nice, steady, even pull until it reaches its breakaway point. Once you reach your breakaway point, give it a nice double check. Double check your alignment marks to ensure that you're even. Once you confirm that your marks are even on both sides, go ahead and remove the rag. Tighten up your adjusting nuts on the back side. Reinstall your axle sliders if you have them, and you're all set. So there you have it. Chain adjusted. Perfect opportunity to clean and lubricate your chain while you have it down. Stick around for that, probably next week's video. Again, I'm Josh. This is my XSR700. Thanks for joining in. Remember to be a good apple, and I'll see you on the next one.